And I know some people are just absolutely like bewildered that I said that. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So I'm sure by the thumbnail and the title of this video you have already figured out exactly what it's about. So today we are going to be talking about being a flight attendant with tattoos. And I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably getting ready to go through the interview process, or you're thinking about becoming a flight attendant and you yourself have tattoos. Now I get asked this question a ton. It's probably one of the questions I get asked the most because I am a flight attendant with tattoos. Now, I will say a disclaimer before we get started that all of the opinions in this video are completely my own. They only reflect myself. They do not reflect anybody else or any airline. And I do not want to get anybody in trouble, so I'm going to try and be as broad and generic as possible without giving out individual situations, because I am not here to throw anybody under the bus. What everybody chose to do is their concern and their concern only. Now, I will tell you exactly what your options are and what kind of to expect when you have tattoos and you are applying to airlines. So if that's something that you're really interested in, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. I post a ton of tips, tricks, and travel secrets. So without further ado, let's get started. So when you are applying to be a flight attendant, there is a 100% chance they're going to ask you about tattoos. So if you do have tattoos, you need to come prepared and come ready, okay? Because they can ask you in two different ways. First, they can ask you, do you have any tattoos? Second, they can ask you, do you have any visible tattoos? These questions are very different and your answers need to be very different. So for the first question, do you have any tattoos? Well, do you? Do you have any tattoos? If you have a single tattoo, then the answer to this question should be yes. And I will say that a lot of United States airlines are a little bit more lenient with tattoos than a lot of international airlines. So a lot of international airlines will not allow you to have a single tattoo, whereas in the States they are a little bit more lenient with having tattoos as long as they are not visible. Now, I will say from personal experience, I had a very hard time getting regionals to even consider me after telling them I had a single tattoo. Now, I will say if you are somebody who does have tattoos and you are getting written off by a lot of airlines, that's okay. There is always going to be an airline out there for you. So if this is your dream and this is your goal and this is your passion, you are not going to let anything stop you. I know it. I know it from experience, okay? So now with this second question, do you have any visible tattoos? Okay, most airlines that you're applying for will define what their airline themselves consider visible. And I will say some airlines seem to be a little bit more lenient than other airlines, okay? Because some airlines will give you a chart and show you what is visible and what is not visible, and if it's anything on those, you're out. They will also say you cannot cover it with makeup, band-aids, whatever, okay? And that would be considered visible. Now, I actually get asked quite a bit, should I disclose my tattoos? Now, here's where all opinions are my own. It is 100% up to you. It is your body, it is your application, it is your job on the line. So it is your choice on what you want to do. And I know some people are just absolutely like bewildered that I said that. But with that being said, there are consequences to your actions, okay? So when you decide to do something, there will always be a consequence to that. So a lot of airlines deem tattoos as culturally offensive to some people. So that's why you need to have your tattoos covered. And you do need to understand that when you are applying for the job, you are applying for the criteria. You need to understand it, you need to abide by it. And if you do not abide by it, you can lose your job. Welcome to the real world, okay? So if you are not going to disclose your tattoos, you better be on your best behavior, because if they find your tattoos at any point, they can let you go, as they should. You lied to them, okay? So don't be offended if all of a sudden you lied and they find out and then you got let go, because that does happen. Now, I have definitely seen people who admitted to having tattoos and got the job. I've seen people who admitted to having tattoos and did not get the job. I've seen people who did not admit to having tattoos and still managed to keep their job. And I've seen people who did not disclose having tattoos and they lost their job. So anything is possible, okay? But what you do need to know is whether you are going to disclose or not disclose. You need to have all tattoos completely covered 100% of the time when you are in your interview, when you are in training, and when you are on the line every day of work. And that is why a lot of people actually do get their tattoos removed, because they get really sick of having to cover them every single time that they have to go to work. So now that you know your options and you kind of know the consequences, you need to figure out what is best for you personally, okay? You need to figure out, am I going to be an absolute Houdini with this tattoo? Nobody's ever going to catch me my entire flight attendant career. Or you need to admit like, hey, I have this tattoo, and see if they're willing to work with you on it, because some airlines are a little bit more lenient, and that just is what it is. And that's why I always say there is a right airline for every single person out there. Also, if you do choose to disclose your tattoos, you do run the risk that they might ask you to remove it. Now, this is your body and this is your potential job. So you have to make the best choice on what you want to do for yourself. Nobody can make that for you but you. Now remember, nobody can make that for you but you. Just know what you're getting involved with. Okay, so now I'll tell y'all how my interview process went with my tattoos. So when they asked me, do you have any tattoos? Obviously I would say yes. If they asked me, do you have any visible tattoos? I said no. Now, when I got to my face-to-face interview, I did my one-on-one interview and I was sitting down with the gentleman. He asked me, do you have any tattoos that I need to know about? And I just kind of giggled and I said, well, I don't know if you need to know about them. And he was like writing on his paper and he looks up at me and he kind of giggled and he said, well, why don't you tell me anyways? And I said, yes, sir, I do have my upper arm tattooed and I do have my sides. And he said, can you wear the short sleeve uniform? And I said, no, sir, I cannot. I do need to wear the long sleeve uniform to keep my tattoos covered. And he said, okay. And he kind of wanted to move on from the conversation, but I really wanted this. And I didn't want to like later think that this was going to be the moment that was going to hold me back from my dream. So I asked him and I said, is that going to be a problem? And he said, well, tell me about your regional airlines tattoo policy. And I said, we were allowed to have tattoos, but under absolutely no circumstance were they allowed to be visible. And he said, okay, well, it's kind of the same thing here. And I said, okay, that's good. And he said, can you promise me something? And I said, yes, sir, what is it? And he said, can you promise me I will never see a single tattoo of yours while you are in uniform? And I said, I can promise you, you will never see a single tattoo of mine when I am in uniform. He said, okay, because I will come hunt you down. And I told him, you have every right to fire me if you ever see a tattoo of mine in uniform. And you know what? I stand by that because I know what their policy is, I know what the job expectations are, and I'm willing to follow them. So if I have tattoos and I'm applying for a job that does not want any visible tattoos, I know for the rest of my life my tattoos need to be covered while I'm at work. And that's the choice I'm willing to make. So now you need to decide, what choices are you willing to make? Are you willing to remove your tattoos? Are you willing to cover your tattoos? Are you willing to do what the airline is expecting you for this greater dream? And honestly, nobody can answer that but you. But just understand, no matter what choice you make, there's a consequence to it, okay? So if you don't disclose your tattoos and you do decide, oh, it's really little, I'm just gonna cover it with makeup, which, mind you, I've tried every tattoo cover-up makeup in the book. I've tried Kat Von D, I've tried Dermacol, I've tried Dermablend. I mean, you name it, I've probably tried it. And you know, if you have a holy grail that I just don't know about, comment down below because I would love to know. But I don't know any makeup that just 100% covers the tattoo without being completely like patchy or obvious or something. I really don't. But if you are willing to try and risk it and go with that, then do that. If that's the choice you want to make. But also understand you will probably have a water ditching day where you have to do water evacuations, and that's where a lot of tattoos are disclosed. And some airlines do their water evacuations towards the end of their interview process. So if they find out about your tattoo right at the very end, you can kiss your dream job goodbye. And then you not only just wasted this opportunity, but also you probably quit your other job to go do all of this, and you wasted 7 or 8 weeks or whatever it is of your life to be in training. So these are really risks and gambles that you kind of have to figure out on what you're willing to take and what you're willing to go through. And I will say, if you don't disclose a tattoo, your anxiety level is definitely going to be a lot higher than other people's, because you're constantly going to be concerned that somebody is going to see it. Now again, there are airlines that sometimes find out about people's tattoos and they just tell them to cover it up. But I don't think that's the rule. I think that's generally the exception. So No matter what you choose, it's your decision, and don't let anybody make it for you, but you need to be smart and weigh your options out. So I hope that this kind of helped you. I hope that this gives you a lot of information to kind of think about and figure out on your own. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And again, if you did like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel. I have so much good content coming your way that I'm so excited about. So I want to thank you all for joining me, and I hope you have a great one. Bye.